Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be my review of the Roccat Burst Pro Air. This is, of course, Rockat's wireless version of the Burst Pro, which actually was a fairly popular mouse amongst the mouse community, the mouse enthusiasts, because it was, at the time, one of the only mice that were a little bit similar to the Zowie S2. Now, of course, there are many S2 clones on the market. There are many more coming, and a lot of them are in lightweight wireless format, and many of them actually are quite good. So when we look at the Roccat Burst Pro Air, we have to kind of think about its price to performance ratio. And the first thing that I will talk to you guys about is the shell, the build quality, and how these switches feel. This mouse is using what Roccat coins the Titan switch opticals. Those are Rockat's proprietary optical switches. We see optical switches in other mice like the Viper Ultimate, and personally I think the Viper does it much better than the Roccat Burst Pro Air. The optical switches in the Burst Pro actually feel quite heavy. They don't feel very poppy. They don't feel as tactile as I would like. Certainly tactile, but as you are coming up from the downstroke back to the original orientation of Mouse 1 and Mouse 2, it actually feels kind of like it sticks a little bit just because of the way the top shell is and how it is designed and the materials. You guys can see Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 are very thin. If you have wide fingers, you might have an issue resting your index finger and your middle finger, or whatever finger you use for your Mouse 2, on this particular mouse. And for whatever reason, Roccat has decided to have this kind of nipply protruding DPI button, which is huge on the mouse and has DPI in all caps. I think the DPI button here looks rather tacky. It just kind of throws off the flow that the mouse had. And I just think it's unnecessary. Not only is it unnecessary, but anybody who utilizes their DPI button as a keybind, it is very hard to push because you have to curl your finger all the way back almost to hit that DPI button. So if you're looking for a mouse that has a DPI button that you can keybind to something else, if you're playing Fortnite and you're using that for a particular keybind in a first-person shooter, I don't really recommend this orientation here. The scroll wheel is fine. It is rather tactile, both and nice feedback scrolling up and down, but pushing mouse 3 in is actually quite dense, quite hard. It's not as poppy as something like, let's say, the G Pro Wireless. As far as the coating of the mouse, the main portion of the mouse, the coating is actually okay. I think the sides of the mouse, I think it is something that becomes rather slippery. It just doesn't feel good. It doesn't maintain a dry surface, and I certainly don't think it is one of my favorite coatings. Mouse 5 and Mouse 4 protrude from the mouse quite a bit. I personally think that both of these are okay. If you are somebody who takes your thumb from Mouse 5 and curls it or bends it to Mouse 4, I do think that you might have some difficulty given the size of your hands. You kind of have to feel like you are kind of bending to the extreme to get to that lower button. But if you are somebody who just uses this portion of your thumb, you can kind of easily bounce back and forth between Mouse 4 and Mouse 5. And Mouse 4 and Mouse 5 are actually very tactile. I don't have any post-travel of any importance at all, unless you apply a lot of force, and then my Mouse 4 actually kind of has a bump to it that is kind of going inside the shell of the mouse. Does not do it on my Mouse 5. The DPI button is very tactile. It is very easy to spam if you're into spamming. However, Mouse 1 and Mouse 2 are not as spammable feeling as the DPI button, and the Titan optical switches just aren't that enjoyable, in my personal opinion, over other switches. As far as the skates on the mouse are okay in terms of their speed and their feel and their glide. But the skates actually feel as though they are quite high on the mouse, and the lip of the skates, I could feel that catching on a lot of my mouse pads. I think that it is a rather weird lip to the skates in general, and you can kind of feel it sometimes as you are having vertical movements with your skates. which is something I wanted to throw out and something that felt a little bit awkward. As far as the sensor, they advertised this stellar wireless, and I don't know if they're referring to the fact that the mouse can go between 2.4 gig wireless and Bluetooth, but many mice on the market, even ones that are cheaper, like the Orochi wireless from Razer, have the ability to go between 2.4 and Bluetooth. So I don't think you should hang your hat on the fact that the mouse can go between 2.4 and Bluetooth wireless, but it's nice to have the dual functionality to take it from your PC to any other device if you are somebody that does that. As far as the sensor itself, I personally felt that in wired mode, the mouse felt more responsive than in wireless mode. So I'm not going to sit here and say that this mouse is on the same wireless performance level as something like the G Pro Wireless Superlight. And they did have a TikTok mentioning that their wireless latency has been tested to be under 25 milliseconds. That is, of course, not any grand feat. And the fact that they've advertised on their TikTok that it's under 25, I'd have to assume is between 20 and 25. And that is not necessarily a very good performing wireless mouse between all of the other options on the market that are far lower as far as latency is concerned than between 20 and 25 milliseconds of latency. And in a market of extremely lightweight wireless mice with very good wireless performance, I do not think that the Roccat Burst Pro Air lives up to expectations in today's market. You have the Pulsar Xlite V2, Ninjutso Katana Superlight, Pulsar Mini, G Pro Superlight, Orochi Wireless, as well as a custom from CryoMods, the NPO1S, all of which feel superior both in wireless latency than the Roccat Burst Pro Air and feel superior in weight and weight distribution. At 81 grams, this mouse felt hard to use. This was not an enjoyable experience for me, and definitely something that I felt worse in game. You know, as far as the analysis, does something make me play better? Does it make me stay the same? Do I play worse? The Roccat Burst Pro Air definitely made me personally play worse, and it just didn't feel enjoyable. It didn't feel good to use. And for that reason, I am not going to certify this mouse as fresh. I am not going to recommend it to you all. And I would say if you are kind of intrigued about this mouse, I would wait for the mouse to go on sale because I think $100 is too much to ask for in the Roccat Burst Pro Air. I hope that helped, guys. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next review. Peace.